You're listening to Hunt Fish Talk on More Outdoors, brought to you by Homa Convention and Visitors Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Wendy Billiot, Keith Lusher, and Don Dubuc.
Unfortunately, Wendy is not with us in this special edition of Hunt Fish Talk. A little bit different. We're taking phone calls. We're also taking text messages. Here's what's going on. We're trying to figure out where are the Ducks, where were the Ducks in the 2018-2019 season. We're asking you, the listeners, how much, and this is in the form of an opinion poll on my website at dontheoutdoorsguy.com, how much impact does pumping water, preventing freezing, and also flooding into unharvested crops in the northern sections of the Flyway affect the southern migration? And right now it looks like about 78% of the people listening believe that it is at least severe to the point of even devastating, where another 20% believe that it only stops an insignificant or possibly no impact to migrating birds. Representatives from Ducks Unlimited Delta Waterfowl basically say it's a weather, warm, perfect storm conditions, poor production, that it is either insignificant or not really any impact to that. Josh Goins, the founder of the Flyway Federation, on the other hand, believes that it's different, that it is definitely having an impact, or at least something is, and that it's not just a one-year anomaly. This is a trend where fewer birds are coming down south. We're taking phone calls and texts, and Josh, first up, we have Captain D on line one. Captain D, thanks for your call. You're on with Josh Goins.
Good morning, Don. Good morning, Josh. We are actually Rob and back from Arkansas today. We were looking at some properties up there to see about doing some hunting. I will give you this report. Josh is, and I'm a member of DU and I'm a member of Delta, but Josh is, I think, exactly on the right track, and he's 100% correct. You cannot flood areas and let ducks swim up to the bottom of a corn stalk and eat corn, and then raise it 6 more inches when they eat the first layer to get to the second layer. That's having a tremendous impact. We, on our club in Jennings, Louisiana, and I hunt both Jennings in southwest Louisiana, and I hunt the Lake Bourne and Lake Catherine area in southeast Louisiana. And I will tell you this. In Jennings this year, we shot a total of 9 geese. That's 12 men shooting 9 geese for the whole season. No ducks, 0. No teal, and no big ducks whatsoever. This is the third year in a row that we've had disastrous hunting. Third year. Now, it wasn't as bad last year, the year before this year, but it was bad. It was very, very bad the last 3 years. And we keep getting these reports, it's blaming the cold weather, it's blaming the hot weather, it's blaming no rain, it's blaming too much rain. Well, I got to tell you, in my humble opinion, when you start flooding cornfields up in Nebraska and in Kansas and all these other places, you're building a levee around these cornfields, you're putting water in these cornfields, and you put the ice heaters up there where they can't ice up, and you let the ducks stay up there, the ducks are not going to fly to Louisiana to get shot at down here, I can promise you. And that's my humble opinion.
I think that you're dead on with that opinion, Captain D.
Well, but anyway, I told Don I was going to listen to the show this morning, and I was going to call you guys up. And by the way, they're complaining in Arkansas. They say this is one of the worst years they've ever seen. Now, having said that, yesterday we had the pleasure of being escorted around some farmland, and we had one spot right behind this little house that I stayed in this year when I hunted. What do you think we had to get up out of that pond, Roy? I'm here with Roy Lynch and Gus Fulkerson. How many ducks you think got out of that little area of woods?
600-800 ducks.
600-800 ducks out of one area that jumped up. So there's ducks up here, and we saw geese on every road, speckled bellies and snow geese and ducks from about 35 miles outside of Stud Yard, all the way along the highway, all the way through Stud Yard. So there's ducks up here. And these guys might be talking about the worst year they ever had. And they're right. I've read that in the paper. I shared that article with Don. And the farmers are all saying the same thing. But having said that, they still have some ducks up here, more than we have in Louisiana by thousandfold. That's all I can tell you from what I've seen. Now,
yes, sir. I'm getting them same reports all the way up.
Yep.
Thanks for the call, D. We appreciate it. Okay, D, Don. Thank you. Let's go to Jeremiah is listening to us in Illinois. Jeremiah, thanks for your call. You're on with Josh Goins.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. a couple statements. One, Mr. Goins says that their harvest has went down in the last 20 years. Well, I'm looking at the harvest data that the federal government, Fish and Wildlife Service, put out, and you see trends up and down. You see in the last few years, Louisiana's shot over 2 million ducks, 2.5 million upwards, as close as 2013, and you've had a little downtrend the last few years, but you also had a downtrend before that in the early 2000s. You also had the same downtrend in the mid 90s when everybody did. It's not just what he believes is short stopping with the flooded corn. I live in Illinois. There isn't as much as what he says. And I'll tell you another thing about it. It's been going on since the early 30s, minimum, early 30s. And where I hunt, I don't hunt flooded corn. I hunt the Illinois River. It's all wide open. So when it's warm, like it was up here this year, we had ice for a couple days this year, and the ducks were able to hold it open, just sitting on the water. We thawed right back out. We never had ice the rest of the year, all the way up until day after Christmas.
And how was your season, Jeremiah? Overall, your season?
My it was decent. I hunt like I said, state ground. It's a permanent blind. We can only hunt 4 guys out of it. I hunted 32 days. Shot 217 ducks. Not great.
What state grounds are you hunting, Don?
What state grounds is it? Public area, Jeremiah?
Jeremiah, I'm sorry.
Woodford County State Conservation Area. It's just north of Peoria, Illinois.
Okay. Do they do any supplemental feeding on that conservation area in no hunt zone?
Nope.
None whatsoever?
Nope.
Do they do any on the nearby conservation area?
No. The next 2 to 3 that are close to me, there is no flooded corn. There is no flooded millet. There is no anything. The only thing, and if you look at the Frank C. Belrose page, we hold upwards of 130,000 ducks is what we'll hold. The state ground itself has 24 blinds on it. It has a couple walk-in areas and some flooded timber. They're usually around 4,000, 5,000 ducks. And out of those 24 blinds, I myself would only probably hunt 7 of them. I've hunted there for 20-plus years. Now, has it changed for us? Yeah, there. Just with siltation.
Do you think that the change for y'all also not seeing the numbers that y'all used to? The late Mr. Tim Grounds from your area talked about it on the Big Honker podcast right before he passed. He talked about how habitats and man manipulating the birds. He said birds came to an area that they never were supposed to be in, and it was due to habitat management and different crops being planted there in Illinois. And he said due to management in the states just north of him, he no longer had the Canada goose coming to him, which he's known for his Canada goose calling. Then he said that duck appeared there. So I'm not saying, and I've said it many, many, many times, I'm not saying that this is the only factor. What I am saying, and is this is a factor that we can fix to try to help the flyway?
Well, I'll say grounds is
Do you
probably,
believe that flooding corn is a bona fide agricultural practice?
Doesn't well, here's the thing. What does it say in the rules? That you can do that. It says
it says right here in the rules, it says a normal agricultural planting is a planting undertaken for the purpose of producing and gathering a crop.
It says you can
does it
flood
say that you can leave the crop?
Corn. It says you cannot manipulate it, which means knock it down so the corn falls off. You can't mow it and leave part of it standing. You can flood corn as long as you're not messing with the corn. What most people do is they will flood it, or they will plant corn. They're either going to spray it to kill it, or they're going to mow it before it produces ears. So they have boat tracks to get to a blind to hunt a hole.
Well, you just said that they're going to spray it to kill it?
Yeah.
So that's a herbicidal treatment, correct?
Before it produces an ear. You didn't listen to that part. Before it produces an ear, they can do that. After it produces an ear, you cannot knock it over on purpose. You cannot mow it. You can't knock it over with the boat on purpose. You can't knock it over with a four-wheeler.
Okay. Does the NRCS for the conservation programs claim water as a manipulation?
No.
Well, in any document that I've read, the NRCS calls water habitat manipulation, but yet it also got pulled out of the manipulations in the Federal Registry in 1998. So
what is any different?
Any biologists, whenever they're talking, like Larry Reynolds, for instance, whenever he's talking about Catahoula, he says specifically, whenever he is flooding Catahoula Lake back, he doesn't say that he's flooding Catahoula Lake. He says that he is manipulating Catahoula Lake, because that is the scientific term for putting water onto a habitat.
But what does the law say?
Water is not a manipulation. So if you put water on a non-flood crop, it's not manipulation?
What would be the difference of hunting the flooded corn to hunting a second thing of rice coming back?
Well, it's a huge difference. Whenever you look right here, unharvested corn on Duck USA study can support 29,364 ducks. A harvested rice field can support 138 ducks. 29,364 versus 138 on a harvested field. That's not a difference?
What did I say?
All right, we got to take a break here. Hold on, Jeremiah. We got to take a break here. Thank you for your call, Jeremiah. We're not going to settle this issue this quick, but we're going to be back. Troy, you'll be up next. He's listening to us in Lake. We're on with Josh Goins. If you want to talk or send a text in, I apologize if I don't get to your text or your call, but we only have time for so many. We'll be right back with more Outdoors.
If you love wild game and seafood but not crazy about cooking and cleanup, then be at the Rummel High Beast Feast, Wednesday, March 27th. Sample alligator sauce pecan, bacon wrapped quail, venison and duck tamales, nutria tacos, charbroiled oysters, black and redfish, and food at over 20 booths staffed by Rummel alumni camp chefs, Dragos, and Chef John Foltz. Enjoy craft beers, raffles, and a live auction to benefit Rummel Alumni Association. Wednesday, March 27th, 5:30 on the Raider Field on Severn Avenue in Metairie. Advance tickets and reserve group tables at RummelRaiders.com. It's RummelRaiders.com.
Hi, my name is Patty, and if you hunt, fish, or find yourself working in Plaquemines Parish, you're invited to stay at my place, Patty's Place, in Buras.
That's my mom, Patty Williams, founder of Patty's Place in Buras, where we're continuing her tradition of being your home away from home. When you're out fishing, hunting, visiting, or working in Plaquemines Parish, call me, Nicole, at 504-912-3786 or see us at pattysplace.net. That's Patty'sPlace.net.
Why is Lake Catherine so popular for boat storage? Because the lake has great fishing and crabbing and is so close to Pontchartrain, Bourne, and Chef fishing, summer, fall, winter, and spring. And right now, V-Knots Marina has 32 brand new slips, each with hoists, spacious walkways, a 16-foot back down, boat parking, fuel and live bait dock, and your boat is safe inside V-Knots' completely fenced area under video surveillance. Located next to Fort Pike, these slips won't be available long. Reserve yours. Call Roy V-Knot today at 504-319-6818. V-Knots Marina, 319-6818.
CIC, Bayou Adventure say we will get you hooked up and on the water today with no problem.
I need cockatoos and crickets.
You have a bucket or container?
No, I left it at the launch.
You got to see the bait man.
Let her have it.
At Bayou Adventure, we got cold beer, kayaks, bait and tackle, and everything you need to get on the water today.
I got the 50 cockatoos.
So come on down to Bayou Adventure in Lacombe for great fresh and saltwater fishing and crabbing. Check out our new website at BayouAdventure.com.
I got the 50 crickets.
With no problem.
CraneCreekHunting.com in Poplarville, Mississippi has quail, chucker, and pheasant hunting for everyone.
Me and my buddies pick the day and time, make one call, and start hunting as soon as we get out of the truck at Crane Creek Hunting.
What I really like about Crane Creek Hunting, the piney wood setting, and the fast-flushing birds are always a challenge, too.
Our kids say watching the dogs work is really cool, and I always feel safe hunting with the professional guides at Crane Creek Hunting.
Corporate groups, families, or just a couple of good friends. Morning or evening guided hunts over pointing dogs, 12 quail per hunter for only $175 per gun. Or like me, bring your dogs. Gracie, Millie, and Ava love it. You will too. CraneCreekHunting.com in Poplarville, Mississippi. An easy drive from anywhere along the Gulf Coast. Book your bird hunt now through March. For directions to Crane Creek Hunting in Poplarville and more info, visit CraneCreekHunting.com or call 601-916-6873. 601-916-6873. Crane, like the bird, creekhunting.com.
You're listening to Hunt, Fish, Talk on More Outdoors, brought to you by Homa Convention and Visitors Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Wendy Billiot, Keith Lusher, and Don Dubuc.
And with us is Josh Goins, Flyway Federation. Josh, I hated to stop that conversation because that was a very important point about whether water is a manipulation tool, because certainly by raising the water level, putting ducks in the level where they can feed on ears of corn certainly is a consideration. And, I guess it's all in how you interpret what is manipulation. Let's move on. Josh, and by the way, let me know if you have to go. I know you got something going on this morning, and if you got to go, we hate to lose you, but let me know when you got to go, and we'll certainly get you back on another time because we got a lot of people, got a lot of comments, and want to talk to you.
I'll try to stick around for as long as I can, Mr. Don.
All right, let's go to Troy, listening to us in Lake Charles on line 4. Troy, thanks for your call. You're on with Josh Goins.
Hey, Mr. Don and Mr. Goins. It's a pleasure to speak with both of y'all. I'm going to try to be as brief as I can, but I do have several comments and also a question for Mr. Goins. But I do want to point out, with all due respect to Jeremiah from Illinois, I believe. I mean, I've seen these chat boards and I've seen these other things on the internet where these guys are outside of Louisiana come in to discredit some of the work that the Flyway Federation is doing and Mr. Goins is doing. And so that really just aggravates me a little bit, just because it's like, this is a Louisiana situation. Why do you feel the need to come in and try? Is it something at risk for you? Is there a reason why, But, one of the things, looking at a lot of YouTube videos, I see that, I heard DU and Delta Waterfowl earlier, and they were saying they didn't even turn the ice eaters on. Well, I mean, I personally have reposted people's stuff that I've seen from Missouri, and I'm watching that and monitoring that because I want to see what's going on up there that could possibly impacting us here further down the flyway, further down the buffet line, if you will. And, I've actually reposted where there was guys that were utilizing ice eaters or pumps. Actually, it was some pumps that they were circulating water so they didn't freeze up. If we'll all remember, the first weekend of hunting season, we had an Arctic blast that came down, and that was whenever Canada posted one of the earliest snowfalls on their record. And they were in Missouri; they had a blizzard. And Louisiana, I've been hunting over 30 years in Louisiana. And Louisiana hunters, one thing typically was a staple. When we'd get an Arctic blast, you always had the cold front push, as we called it. And those birds were gone before it got too cold. The barometric pressure would drop, and they were out of there. And we would always get this great surge of hunting. And that's something we always look forward to. I definitely did as a child. And so this is going to go to my comment and my point to my question for Mr. Goins. You know, I'm looking through and I look how they ban ducks utilizing corn, how that is, you know, just a huge attractant for them. And, you know, that's number one reason baiting is illegal, because a duck will fly into a baited area knowing he's going to get shot in the face, and the will to eat will overcome his natural fight or flight instinct. So, you know, my comment is okay, well, if they'll do that, why would they not ignore their internal instinct to fly south? Because their food's there. So why would they not? I mean, if they're willing to die for it, what's the little bit of cold? And a duck doesn't get cold. So that's my comment. My question to Mr. Goins would be, you know, what exactly is the difference between literally just dumping corn into a pond out of a sack of corn, a couple 100 pounds, versus flooding? I mean, I kind of have my own ideas on this, but I hear DU and Delta waterfowl somehow try to make it this, you know, magical difference, and I don't think there is, to be honest with you, that somehow it's different. But the end result is it's still that there's food and water for the ducks, and they don't care how you got to that point, you got it. So what's your opinion and input on that, Mr. Goins, as far as you know, the impact from a flooded rice field, flooded cornfield versus actually putting corn into your pond?
Thank you for asking that, from William calling in. The difference is from unharvested crops to just dumping grain. If you dump grain and it's below the water or below the snow, therefore it's going to be harder for them to forage for it, to look for it. And not only that, it will deteriorate because it's not above the water. Okay? Then you look at an unharvested field versus just dumping grain. Well, 1 acre of unharvested corn can produce 11 to 13,000 pounds, according to the yield. So whenever you think about that much corn, imagine me or you loading up 11 to 13,000 pounds in a dump truck and going to dump it in a 1 acre marsh pond. And then you can read the Duck Use Days study, and it will tell you adamantly areas of standing rice and corn can support many ducks per acre. Once harvested, however, the ability of such areas to sustain numbers of ducks drops tremendously. It says very clearly that after it gets below 45 pounds per acre, that ducks will give up on particular location and move to new areas to feed. So if they are leaving, let's just say 100 acres, and you're producing 11 to 13,000 pounds of corn per acre, imagine how much corn is above the snow and ice that will never deteriorate and that they will never get eaten out and be able to hold these ducks for that amount of days. So you literally would have to have 8 foot of snow to cover this stuff up.
All right, let's move on. Thank you for the call, Troy. We appreciate it. Josh, I got a text message here I want to pass along to you. Someone is questioning who did the study that's where you stated 138 birds can feed on a harvested rice field. And then what about crawfish and other invertebrates that ducks don't eat them?
Yes, sir. The 2 Duck Use Days studies that I have on the facts and documents section on Flyway Federation USA.com. One is done in partnership with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service with Dr. Richard Kaminsky from Mississippi State. And then the other study was done by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service themselves.
All right. Josh, can you stick with us a little longer? Got more texts and calls for you if you can.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. We'll come back right after this break. 504-260-6368. Text messages 870-870. We're back right after this.
Get your Bayou Wild Collection soft tee or dry fit fishing shirt at BayouWildTV.com. Show you're a proud Bayou Wild supporter and get both today at BayouWildTV.com.
If you're a proud Bayou Wild TV viewer, check out the Bayou Wild TV collection shirts. Both regular tee and long sleeve dry fit are a perfect fit for any outdoorsman or woman who lives and plays in Bayou country. And they make perfect gifts. Go to BayouWildTV.com.
For years, you've used Standard Mapping's aerial photo maps to get to your hunting and fishing hotspots. Now available are Standard Mapping's e-cards. They're SD cards containing aerial photo image data that replaces the background map on your Lowrance HD GPS. Whether you need visual access to Delacroix, Venice, the Atchafalaya Basin, or any of the many areas these e-cards cover, travel like a pro, even if you've never been there. To order, go to DonTheOutdoorsGuide.com and click on Outdoor Mall. DonTheOutdoorsGuide.com and find e-card maps at Don's Outdoor Mall. Update. Garmin version e-cards now available at Don's Mall at DonTheOutdoorsGuide.com.
Hi, I'm Jack Daly, and I'm a sixth-generation farmer. Aside from land, Louisiana Land Bank also makes great equipment loans. Currently, I have 2 loans with Louisiana Land Bank to finance tractors on our operation. We farm corn, soybeans, cotton, and still have some beef cattle. Doing business with Louisiana Land Bank is really easy, and they get agriculture. It gives me a lot of confidence that our bank has been in business for 100 years. Louisiana Land Bank. They understand what farmers do and what farmers need.
If you're lucky enough to bag a deer or a hog this season, bring it here to Double D. Double D processes hogs and exotic game and guarantees your product is always the meat you brought to Double D.
Double D Meats in Bogalusa, home of country smoked, spicy jalapeno cheddar, and other customized flavors.
Bring your deer or your hog here to Double D, where you always get your meat back in return. It's worth a drive to Bogalusa from anywhere. Double D.
When you're serious about getting the right gear for fishing, you really need to check out Gus's Tackle and Nets in Slidell. Gus's carries all the top brands of freshwater and saltwater fishing tackle, offering the best selection of soft plastics in stock like Matrix, Egret, and Deadly Dudley. Gus's is also your headquarters for nets, carrying a wide variety of crab nets, crawfish nets, and trawls. They also do rod and reel repairs. So visit them at 726 Old Spanish Trail in Slidell or give them a call at 985-643-2848.
You're listening to Hunt, Fish, Talk on More Outdoors, brought to you by Homa Convention and Visitors Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Wendy Billiot, Keith Lusher, and Don Dubuc.
And we'll get some comments from Keith in a little while, but I know Josh is short on time, so we want to get as many calls and comments into him as we can. Let's go to line 5 for Michael listening to us in Slidell. Mike, you're on the air with Josh Goins.
Hey, man, I just wanted to comment on a couple of things that I've been listening to, throughout y'all's show. Thank you for having me on. But the main thing that kind of struck me was, y'all are fighting the flooded corn. The flooded corn is the big fight with Flyway Federation, and it seems to me like it's almost like you're fighting a losing battle because there's really little to no data on how much corn is flooded for millions of acres that is flooded, and how it would. What are y'all saying is stop the migration? I don't see that being the flooded corn being enough to stop a migration, because if you look at flooded corn, primarily it's mallards. I guess you get other dabbling ducks as well, but you don't get the gadwall, the widgeon, the dogree, the scaup, the redhead, the canvasback. You don't get all those ducks in the flooded corn that you get in Louisiana. So I get the gripe, but I don't think that it's enough to stop the migration. And I also wanted to hit on the 138 ducks per acre of flooded rice. That you say it can live off flooded rice, but the study that I saw says that it's 138 ducks per acre from waste grain per day for duck energy days. It's usually a lot more than 1 acre on a rice field. It's usually thousands of acres. Southwest Louisiana is millions of acres. I mean, it's incredible. And that's not even counting the invertebrates and, I mean, such as crawfish, snails, minnows, everything, which is a huge, huge, huge resource. So what's the difference between the flooded corn and the flooded rice that we've been hunting down here for hundreds of years,
Well, it's the same
Okay,
difference,
Josh.
harvested versus unharvested.
So
You
right,
look
so why are
at your
you-
unharvested corn supporting 25,669 ducks per acre per day. Well, harvested corn is below 1,000 DUD acres. So, therefore, if they was to harvest their cornfields, it would be the same as us. Actually, they would support more ducks than us in a harvested rice field.
Well, the reason I say that is because I hunt southeast Kansas, and it's purely cornfield, excuse me. And I've shot geese, especially late February after a thaw, and these geese are plumb full of corn, and there's not a single flooded cornfield in the area. I mean, we have permission on like 30,000 acres, and there's not one anywhere near. It's all waste grain from combines. So is that a bigger problem than flooded corn?
I would say that it's just as much a problem, but how can I fight against a normal agricultural practice? I can't.
Correct.
I have to keep the focus on the one thing that we can do to try to fix the flyway, and that's restore the definition of a normal agricultural practice for flooding to be made a manipulation. Because wouldn't you agree that flooding a cornfield is manipulating it?
What about it's no more manipulating than the flooded, oak trees in Arkansas that no one has a problem with?
Well, whenever you
don't
look
hear
at
people complaining about
DUD acres whenever you look at the DUD acres on a flooded oak trees, have you even looked at them?
Sure, I have. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so do they even come above 1,000 duck use days?
I don't have the data in front of me, but there are hundreds of thousands of acres. So it's almost like it's more. I mean, it could be a refuge. It could be. I mean, how many hundreds of acres are there of flooded corn for the millions of harvested corn that farmers grow and harvest?
Well, I'm just utilizing the 10% of what Dr. Rauer
an estimated 10%, or is that a 10% hard 10%?
I'm going off of their numbers. They said 10% of these conservation programs are doing this. So if there is millions of acres into these programs, 10% is a lot of land, correct?
Correct. But when you say these programs, are you talking about WMAs and NWRs, or are you talking about privately owned places
No,
such as
I'm
Habitat
talking
Black?
about just on private. That's not counting the programs that they're doing on public lands up in these states. So I just pulled it up. Bottomland hardwood, 30% red oak can support 62 ducks per day per acre. 60% red oak, 191 ducks per day per acre. 90% red oak, the best that you can get, can support 320. How does that factor against 25,669 on an unharvested cornfield?
It's the scale, the acreage of flooded timber versus flooded corn, because you drive through Missouri, Arkansas, and you look on the side of the road and look what's next to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the flooded hardwoods, which isn't natural unless it's a floodplain, and you don't see the flooded corn. The trees they're having a problem with the trees dying because of the flooding, and you don't see the flooded corn. You see the flooded trees.
That's because of the mismanagement of it. But whenever you read the regulations, it says if you restore and manage wetlands as a habitat for waterfowl and other migratory birds, you can manipulate the natural vegetation in these areas and make them available for hunting. So a man flooding his hardwood's bottom is providing a habitat for him to hunt.
What about the springtime when energy is, super important to waterfowl to get back north, to have their babies, to nest, molt, do their thing? When
I'm glad
the flooded
you
corn
brought it
important
up,
then
because
for them to get there?
Why are the places in the northern states that are dedicating this practice for staging areas on the southern migration, why are they dropping their water levels out for the birds on their northern migration to prepare them for next hunting season? Are they doing it really for conservation, or are they doing it for their hunting lot or hunting opportunity?
Right. I mean, is that, I'm trying to think, does that matter though? Like, is it, because another thing is if it's habitat when they're coming down, shouldn't it be habitat when they're going back north, or when, for that
yes,
matter,
most definitely.
do they need it when they go back north because they have the now there's no ice or snow. There hasn't been all year, but on a cold year there's no more ice and snow covering the crop. So do they need the flooded crop?
All right, Michael, we're going to have to let Josh answer that question and then move on. Go ahead, Josh.
I would think they'd need any type of good habitat for conservation efforts for their northern flight. But let's be honest here. If they're staging them on their southern migration and dropping the levels out on their northern migration, are they doing this to help the ducks, or are they doing it just to profit off of the ducks?
I mean, who says that they're dropping it out in the springtime? Is there data on that? Or
you can look at any reports. They also have to, according to the conservation regulations and requirements, by a certain date, they have to drop the water off.
All right, Michael, we got to stop your conversation right here, Michael. I got to get to a break. Before this break, Josh, there's a text message I want you to address here. It says there is no trend data that shows increased harvest in mid-latitude and northern states. In fact, their harvest trend is flat. So if your claim of short stopping is true, where are all these extra dead ducks in states north of Louisiana? They're not showing up in harvest data or mid-winter surveys. Perhaps, and this is just my question, does it lie in the percentages have gone up there, even though maybe the hard numbers have not?
Well, the hard numbers that I've pulled show a upward trend, especially in Missouri. And you can find that on FlywayFederationUSA.com, and you can go check out. I've got the link to look at the numbers and to look at the trend data. But the fact of the matter is that if people are complaining in northern states, do you think it's because the ducks are sitting on unhuntable refuges and private lands that don't get hunted that are doing this type of conservation practice? I would say so, because whenever you look at the Forbes counts, just this year they were over 100% above the long-term average sitting on refuges that are unhuntable. Then you look at last year, they were 141% above the long-term average. So therefore, it's affecting even the guys in the areas that are wanting to do this practice, and they don't even see it.
All right, Josh, we're going to take a break here. You still good to stay with us for a while?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. We'll be back, and we'll wrap it up with Josh Goins of the Flyway Federation. If you want to get a quick call or a text in, 504-260-6368, or shoot us that text at 870-870. We'll be right back.
Fisherman's dream. It said that it would catch more fish than you had ever seen. A top-of-the-line, super high-tech fishing machine.
There's only two things as much fun as catching fish, and that's eating and talking about it. And on Mondays here at Morton's, we have both. Hi, this is Dawn Davis inviting you to enjoy some delicious seafood and talk fishing with host Don Dubuc and Martha Spencer as they tape Bayou Wild TV during lunch. On location here at Morton Seafood Restaurant and Bar on the banks of the Tchefuncte River in Madisonville.
Great seafood and fishtails. It doesn't get any better than that.
Check BayouWildTV.com for dates and times or call and make a reservation at 985-845-4970 for Mondays at Morton's Seafood Restaurant and Bar.
I want to take a second to give Island Marina at Lake Catherine some kudos. What a great job David and Angie Stewart's done with this facility. Clean, friendly service, live bait, ice, fuel, tackle. They're located at 26204 Sheffman Tour Highway right on Lake Catherine, so you're just minutes away from some popular fishing destinations. Alligator Point, the ICW, Little DD, Biloxi Marsh, just to name a few. So give Island Marina at Lake Catherine a try on your next fishing trip. I'm positive that David and Angie will go above and beyond to make sure it won't be your last.
If you don't believe there's more reward to hunting and fishing than seafood and game, please read my book, Beyond Bullets and Baits. It's some of my favorite stories collected over 30 years of writing and broadcasting. Some are funny, some motivational, some inspirational. All are entertaining, intriguing, but above all, true. At Amazon.com, the Kindle edition of Beyond Bullets and Baits is available for only $2.99. That's right, $2.99. The audio edition's in the works. Beyond Bullets and Baits, order today at Amazon.com.
What's up, guys? We are Them Old Ghosts, a Southern Soul rock and roll band from right here in South Louisiana. For upcoming shows, link to our music and merchandise, you can check us out at ThemOldGhosts.com and on all social media at Them Old Ghosts.
You're listening to Hunt, Fish, Talk on More Outdoors, brought to you by Homa Convention and Visitors Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Wendy Billiot, Keith Lusher, and Don Dubuc.
All right, we're talking with Josh Goins, Flyway Federation, and we're getting a lot of text messages in, Josh. This one says, Josh does not seem to understand that likely 90% of the government program, in quotes, acreage he's talking about is upland acres. Those don't hold water and don't hold ducks, even if they have standing unharvested crops. Most CRP acreage is warm season, grass, pheasant, and quail habitat. Someone challenging your numbers there.
That's perfectly normal. People challenge my research all the time, and I don't disagree with what he's saying. But the fact of the matter is, if you get on the internet and look on YouTube at any video that you want, you can actually find, let's say, over 100, I know for a fact, of hunting lodges for sale on YouTube that are in these programs, and they will clearly tell you, here is our 10 pit blinds, concrete pit blinds in flooded cornfields. Here's our dove field. Here is our pheasant field. And then they'll quickly tell you what acres are enrolled into these programs. And we're not talking about a small acreage. We're talking about 1,000+ acres on most of these lands. Okay? Then they'll tell you how many gallons per minute the pumps can put out. So how can you say that these programs aren't supporting this? And the ones that are doing the upland game, if you look on the map and find these programs that are doing this, they're still leaving their crop, a certain percentage of their crop, unharvested. Well, why don't you look at exactly where that place is, where this practice is being done, and I guarantee you will find a refuge with water on it. So therefore, if they have open water and an unharvested food source right beside them, what are they doing? They're flying back and forth.
Josh, I have this comment, rice versus corn. The difference is access. And it just flipped on me. This thing, there's so many of these coming in here, it's hard to keep up with them. Let's see.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. While I'm looking for that, go ahead, Keith.
Hey, Josh. Listen, one question I've seen come across here is, if we would do this down in Louisiana, would it be illegal?
It's according to – okay, so I'm going to bring up Canada. Okay. In Canada, I received a letter, and it's on FlywayFederationUSA.com, and it's from the Secretary of Wildlife and Environmental climate change, Catherine McKenna. And she says very clearly that it is an uncommon practice and is not used by hunters unless they have a baiting permit, which they only give out 47 of them. They are currently in the process, it's in the final stages before the Prime Minister will sign into law, to ban the baiting permits, which happened in 1994. Now, they say that the reason why the common man cannot do these practices is due to the regulations in the Migratory Bird Treaty. So it's supposed to be in the United States, if you read into the laws, it's supposed to be only utilized by people who are in these conservation programs that has blown up since 1986. So, therefore, if you have the common man doing it that's not in the program, he's not supposed to be doing, according to the verbiage of the law and the requirements and regulations, they know how effective it is, and he's not supposed to be doing it. But therefore, we have people in certain states, because of the leniency by the Cooperative Extension Service, those people are doing it just because everyone else is. Well, then you have property and acreage that the government can't track that's going against the regulations of the Migratory Bird Treaty and the conservation programs. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it clarifies it. Also, I think we heard from the two scientists, and they were stressing last year was terrible. But we're not looking at the whole picture. I mean, we've lost half our hunters here in Louisiana since the 90s. So what do you point to for that? Since the changing in the wording, does that line up with us losing half the hunters? Does that make sense?
Well, wouldn't you agree that if hunters are doing exactly what they're doing right now all over the nation, going and looking at empty skies, and only a select few happen to be in these X marks, as I call them. So they're the only ones that are seeing huge concentrations in certain areas, which is also dangerous due to avian diseases by doing this practice. So if hunters are staring at empty skies and spending thousands upon thousands of dollars, because duck hunting is an expensive sport. So
absolutely,
if they're looking at empty skies year after year after year, do you think they're going to find another sport to do? I would say yes, very much so.
Yeah, and the numbers definitely show it down here in Louisiana, because I remember back then we would be so picky, getting a limit that we could choose our birds. Now we're just happy to get a limit down here,
Now you're happy to get one or two flocks to fly by.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Josh, I have another text here that says the 10% is not the correct number. Only 5% of WRP, CRP can be planted. So if only 10% of the 5 is planted in corn, it's really not that much. Get your facts straight. Now, the 10% came from, I believe it was, it was either Tom
and Delta, correct?
Frank. Yeah.
So why isn't he arguing with DU and Delta, telling them they were wrong? Why is he arguing with me?
Maybe
I don't understand. I'm going off of
maybe because you're available right now.
I'm sorry they couldn't stay for questioning and comments to everybody, but the fact of the matter is I'm going off of numbers that are produced through these programs and said by these conservation groups that are way more knowledgeable than me. I just did a ton of research to find out the problem. So I can only utilize what I'm given. And y'all heard it earlier. They said 10%. So I don't know what the argument is there.
Josh, I have another text here that says corn has been flooded in Missouri for a century, and it's a known fact that the acreage and that this has been happening on is no larger than years past. LTAs are exactly that. Long term, duck reproduction is decreasing due to breeding grounds, habitat, and predators. Well, if we decreasing due to loss of habitat and predators, we can't do anything about the wet and the warm weather. but certainly predators, and perhaps if we find, and I don't think we really know for sure what the extent of flooding unharvested corn is, that is certainly something that is controllable.
Well, the fact of the matter is, you can read Waterfowl of Tomorrow, and people talk about, they've been utilizing this practice up here for centuries. Well, guess what, guys? They after World War II, they put into place doing this type of practice on public refuges to provide hunting opportunities to northern hunters, which is a great thing. But by doing this, they shortstop the Canada goose. So now it's done on a larger scale on private land. After 86 is whenever these programs started. So therefore, they're concentrating on private lands. But why is all the focus on conservation going to overwintering or critical wintering sites in the middle of the flyway whenever it's known that a duck can make it from Canada to the Gulf Coast in less than 24 hours? There's tons of recordings on band data on this. Now, in our overall population is still, it only dropped 13% from last year. But whenever you look at it back to the years that was the glory days here in Louisiana, we're at 5 times the breeding population in Canada since then. So therefore, we still have an upward trend in the breeding grounds, but yet people are saying that the breeding grounds needs more work. I fully agree with that. But why are the efforts being focused on the mid-continent in the flyway instead of in the breeding grounds to fix what he just said?
All right, then, Josh, finally, we got to wrap up here, but this one says that you block anyone from your Facebook page if they don't 100% agree with you. He won't even have a civil discussion with people there. He just kicks and blocks them. Ask him why he does that. Why do you do that, Josh? I'm being facetious. I don't even want an answer for that. Josh, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time, your time, to talk with people and the research and time you put into this. I think bottom line is, I think everyone, these organizations and the federal government needs to get together and get a real good, clear, hard assessment of what the amount of acreage, the amount of ducks that are utilizing that, and determine if, in fact, it does have an altering factor to the migration, and maybe something needs to be changed. We've had laws that have had to be implemented, had to be charged in the past when we find that they're not working.
You're exactly right, Mr. Don. And what people need to realize is I want to come to the table with these people. I want to help them out to figure this problem out. But until they face the fact that it is affecting the flyway, we've got a problem because everyone sees it and the research shows it. And I'm not against them. I think that they've done great work. I think they still do great work. But I can't support something that is arguing that I know is a problem. So I need everyone to understand that I am not against them.
And Josh, I think you're
doing
a
I'm
good
hopeful
job.
that,
Go ahead, Don.
I was going to say the announcement that the Mississippi Flyway Council is meeting next week in Mobile, Alabama, and that this issue may come up, I think, is a positive step, to getting people to pay more attention to it and find out exactly what the extent of it is. We find out everything else. I mean, I don't think there's a more studied bird than ducks, and I think they warrant that. And to keep duck hunting for years and years and pass it on down to our children and grandchildren is extremely important.
Yes.
Again, Josh, thank you for taking the time to be with us. And I'll get you back on again, and if something comes out of that council meeting that we need to discuss, I'll give you a holler and get you back on. I've probably got 100 text messages here. We could go on all day with this if we had the time.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate y'all having me on, and please, I'd love to be able to go to that meeting. I have meetings all next week. I'm going to try to make every one of them that I can with the Louisiana Wildlife and Fish meeting. But everyone's got to understand, I have a family and I have a real job. This is a grassroots organization movement trying to help everybody. And I'm sorry that I can't do it as a full-time job, but I'm doing what I can, guys.
Thanks again, Josh. We appreciate it.
Good
Thank
job,
you,
Josh.
Keith. I know you didn't get much participation in it, but we had a lot of listeners, and I think we made some good ground today. We'll see y'all next week. More Outdoors.
Pirate